For a growing number of women in India, that whole idea of a biological clock isn't ticking quite as loudly as it used to. There's this pretty revolutionary technology, social egg freezing, and it's completely changing the traditional timelines for career, for partnership, and for motherhood. So let's dive in and really understand what's going on behind this massive shift. And this quote from former Miss World Diana Hayden, well, she was one of the first public figures in India to talk about this, and it really captures what this is all about. At its heart, this is a story about choice, about freedom, and about the power to write your own story on your own timeline. So, yeah, what used to be a really hushed conversation is now totally mainstream. It's being driven by these prominent women, by big shifts in society, and suddenly egg freezing is being seen as this smart, proactive way to plan your future on your own terms. And the reasons why women are making this choice are, well, they're as diverse as the women themselves. It's not just one thing. For some, it's about climbing the career ladder in their 20s and 30s without having to make that impossible trade-off. For others, it's an absolutely crucial step before they face something like chemotherapy. And for so many, it really just comes down to personal choice, maybe delaying marriage or simply waiting to find the right partner without that constant nagging pressure of a biological clock. A huge part of this shift is thanks to public figures stepping up. I mean, when powerful women like producer Ekta Kapoor, who froze her eggs at 36, or actress Mona Singh, who did it at 34, talk about this openly, it does something incredible. It just starts to dismantle those old, stubborn stigmas. It presents this technology not as some desperate last resort, but as a smart, empowering plan. Okay, so we've talked about the why. Now let's get into the how. Because like any advanced medical procedure, egg freezing in India doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's actually governed by a pretty specific set of rules, and it all falls under the Assisted Reproductive Technology Act, or the ART Act, from 2021. And for anyone even thinking about this document right here is the place to start. It's the official government FAQ. And trust me, understanding this legal framework isn't just a good idea. It is the most critical first step to make sure you navigate the process correctly and, most importantly, safely. Which, of course, brings us to the first big question on pretty much everyone's mind. Who can actually do this? Are there restrictions based on your age or whether you're married? Well, the law is actually surprisingly clear and really inclusive on this. Any woman between the ages of 21 and 50 can access these services. And here's the really crucial part. That includes unmarried women. The law explicitly opens the door for single women to preserve their fertility. Now, the Act also lays down some very strict rules when it comes to egg donors, and this is all designed to protect everyone involved. A donor has to be between 23 and 35, and this is critical. She can only donate her eggs once in her entire lifetime. On top of that, to prevent any kind of exploitation, the law makes it a punishable offense to buy or sell eggs. These rules are there for a reason, especially given India's past concerns with commercial surrogacy. And there is one thing where the law draws a very, very firm line in the sand: sex selection. Any attempt, any act at all, to try and figure out or influence the sex of a child using ART is absolutely forbidding. And let me tell you, this is one of the biggest prohibitions in the entire act. Okay, so we've covered the why and the legal how, but now we get to the most practical question of all, right? What does this actually cost? Because the price of preservation is a massive piece of the story. So this number right here, this is your main upfront cost. One full cycle, and that includes all the hormone injections and the retrieval procedure, is typically going to set you back between 1.4 to 2 lakh rupees. But that's not the whole story. Let's break it down a little more. Before you even start, you've got initial tests and workups that cost around 5,000 to 8,000 rupees. Then you have the big one, the cycle itself. But the costs don't stop there. You've also got an ongoing expense, the annual storage fee. That's around 20,000 rupees every single year, which turns a one-time decision into a really long-term financial commitment. So you're probably wondering, can insurance help with this? Well, the short answer is generally no. Because it's considered an elective procedure, not a medically necessary one, most health insurance policies in India just won't cover it. And that means for the vast majority of women, this is an entirely out-of-pocket expense. But wait, here's something fascinating. And honestly, it could be a total game changer. Over in Mumbai, the public Kama Hospital just became the first government-run hospital in Maharashtra to offer these services, including egg freezing, completely free of charge for some patients. That's huge. And that whole Kamea Hospital initiative, It really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It shines a huge spotlight on the gap in who can access this. And that brings us to the final and most complicated part of this whole discussion. We've been framing this as a story of choice. But is it really a choice for everyone? And could it be creating a whole new kind of pressure on women? This quote really nails the heart of the critique. The argument from some academics is that this feeling of control we get from technology also puts all the responsibility on individual women to risk manage their own fertility. So you have to ask, is this real freedom? Or are we just asking women to use an expensive piece of tech to solve what might actually be a much bigger societal problem? Okay, so to really get this debate, we need to understand the difference between two big ideas. On one hand, you have reproductive autonomy. That's simple. It's your individual right to choose. But then there's reproductive justice, and that's a much broader idea. It asks the tough question, do all women have the social and economic resources to actually make that choice a real one? And that, of course, brings us right back to the cost. The simple, hard fact is that right now, access to this empowering technology is pretty much limited to women who have the money to afford it. And that creates a very clear divide. So here's what we're left with. As science keeps giving us more and more control over our own biology and our own timelines, we have to keep asking ourselves this really tough question. In this new world of reproductive choice, who actually gets to choose, and who is being left behind?